Final hour overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Our best bets later in the hour. Travis Green later in the hour. Chris Johnston coming up here in a few moments. The O-Dog's scrambling here because Noodle's very objective, very open, very honest, man of integrity. Sided with my Jack Adams 5-pack list, and we're going to have, a Vesna coming up, the Hart coming up, the Norris coming up.
I know that you talked to him.
We did not speak today
not say
at
a
all.
word.
You guys,
not a word.
The only time Hayes texted me this morning saying,
really? Interesting.
We're going remote. Yes, we're gonna. I'm working
Very
from home today, and I said yes. I'm traveling, so I'm going to work from home. That's it. I'll be in studio tomorrow.
I'll be there. Yep, I'll
be there too.
I suggested in the group chat Ray Ferraro. Because I think Ray is non-biased. He covers the league. Mm-hmm. He obviously knows the show very well. I think he would be a really good judge of this situation.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
I think Ray's a good call. I mean, Ray is a very good judge. Ray knows everyone on this show and is aware of what's going on around the league, so I like that idea.
There was also an offer from Gurdeep. Gurdeep sent a note.
A man of integrity.
Friend of the show, and he would be fine to help out with the process. There's lots of people that want to help out.
A lot of people that want to help out, and that's what's important. So we'll figure this out. We will figure this out, but maybe we can get Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter to be the arbiter here, right?
Not sure I trust him either.
Not sure I would either. I don't think I would either. So Shohei came out and spoke. I guess it's 28 seconds. It's in Japanese, and then it's, translated to English. You want to hear Shohei?
I can't wait to hear it.
This is Shohei Ohtani about 15 minutes ago.
まずはじめに、僕自身は、何かにかけたりとか、誰かに代わって、そのスポーツイベントにかけたりとか、それをまた頼んだり、っていうことはないですし、僕の口座からブックメーカーに対して、誰かに送金を依頼したことももちろん全く、ありません。
So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf. And I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports.
That's it? Are you kidding me? Okay. That's what we said, though, right? You knew what he was going to come out is hammer. I don't bet, didn't bet baseball, right? Like, and didn't bet with a book. Like, that's the smoking gun.
Yeah,
right?
but now people have questions like, how does the interpreter have access to $4.5 million?
Right. But that's, like, I don't think people are as interested in the idea of him, clearly Ohtani being a victim. You know what I mean? Like, if this money was stolen, I think the average person will say, obviously that's terrible for him, loses a relationship, this interpreter should have to pay a serious price for that and needs to be booted, which he's been. But then, the average person will say, Ohtani's got a lot of money, whatever, it's not going to change his life. Where this becomes more salacious and more of a soap opera is the gambling element, gambling on baseball in particular, the bookie, and that's what he just hammered out. Haven't bet on baseball, never used a bookie. Like,
right.
Okay. And obviously that's the lawyers, that's the league involved. What a first impression for the new interpreter, though. Like, imagine you screw that up. It's like, hey, man, like, you better get out there and get that right. Now, I would guess, again, it was a written statement. He may not even know how to speak Japanese. He may have just been out there literally reading it in English for him. Like, it wasn't even a translator. It's just, you speak English, you go read that into the mic.
Yeah.
But, that's it. And Ohtani's gone.
So that's all they said, and they got up and walked out.
All it was. See you later, mic drop.
These statements are so weird. Like, they just, what has that got, like, does he think, okay, case closed, mic drop? Like, there's nothing there. That's a nothing burger for 30 seconds. That's what it is.
Nothing.
I made my
Waste
statement.
of time.
I'm not talking about it. Yeah, you're going to have to talk about it. People are going to ask. Fans are going to ask. The memes are out there. The Twitter, I mean, people love or hate Twitter. The memes are brilliant. Like some of the
fire.
Like the comments alone. Like
there's so many great memes and tweets and posts going around right now.
It's ridiculous. Like, and are we supposed to just take him for face value? Like, all I can think of, you remember famous statements. Bill Clinton, I never had relations. Like, and, oh, by the way, I did. There's all
That's
these
what it is,
comments.
Noodles. He better be truthful, because if stuff comes piling out afterwards, then you really look like a jackass and you're in big time trouble.
Right.
Right. And this is where the bookie, if and when he speaks, it's going to add fuel to the fire, right? Now, this, you're dealing with a bookie. There's a lot of people that will just say, I'm not taking anything that guy says seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is another thing we discussed a couple hours ago, where it's like, this is your statement. This is what people are going to hold you to. And he came out and he hit the 3 notes. Don't bet on baseball, no bookies. All right.
Yeah.
There it is, established. You don't bet on baseball, you don't bet on other sports, no bookies. So that's what we're going with. Cool. All right. That's fine. And if that's the case, then this will blow over. But if it comes out, actually, there's Shohei at a sports book doing, then it's like, wait a minute, right? If you start finding stuff, or the bookie comes out and goes, wait a minute, I know Ohtani was involved one way or the other, we're going to go back to that statement, and he's going to have to unravel it from there. But that's it for Shohei. Yeah. I don't know how much he's going to speak over the course of the year anyway. And ultimately, his actions will probably speak louder than words if he keeps playing, right? Like, if he goes out and lights the league on fire, hits 50 home runs, and is a rock star, and the Dodgers win the World Series, then all right.
Yeah, but isn't the league doing an investigation, or have they closed the case?
They are, but they're only going to go as far as the authorities take it, right? Whatever they find out, what kind of details are there and up front, and if he struggles, though, this will really start to ramp back up again. Like, this guy's really fighting some demons here at the plate, or whatever it is, and how much of it is his reputation and his translator, his friend, etc. Travis Green later in the hour. Here's Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey insider. How you doing, CJ?
I'm doing well, and mark me down as a skeptic on this whole Ohtani thing, but we won't.
What do you think happened, CJ?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, have you ever tried to even transfer like $10,000 to someone? I mean, there's a lot of guardrails generally around moving money around, so I have a hard time believing he didn't know that money was leaving his account. I'm not saying he bet on sports. But, just the way the story changed within the last week, I just feel like we haven't heard the last of this thing yet.
Yeah, that boxed statement is not going to end anything. Like, no one's going to say, "Oh, thank you, Shohei, appreciate that. Now let's continue with our baseball coverage."
It only took 5 days for that 90-second statement. I mean, come on,
right?
Not buying it.
No kidding. I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah, everyone's digging up everything on his translator, about what school he went to, where he's from, who he knows, his identity, how much money he makes, who he's worked for, who he hasn't. So that's going to ramp up too. They're going to basically describe this guy as, a loser and someone that robbed and ripped off his good buddy in Shohei Ohtani. But yeah, man, I don't know. This is wild stuff.
They just left him in the ditch with that statement. So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
You're holding the bag now. It's like, you stole from me and you lied to me, and I never did anything. Like, that's basically Ohtani's approach here, and that's the statement. And meanwhile, 4 days ago, they were in a dugout in South Korea, buddy, and all of a sudden everything flipped. I mean, it does lead you to at least ask some more questions. When we get those answers, I guess are yet to be determined at this point. The Leafs had a really interesting weekend. I mean, I think them getting 2 of the 4 points is probably what they were pulling for and hoping for. And statement went on Saturday night. Depth scoring was there. They played with some bite and some grit. I mean, you've watched this team. You've seen them up close and personal a lot. That game on Saturday, how would you describe that in terms of leading towards positive vibes, moving towards the playoffs if they can bottle that up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the more encouraging efforts of the season. Just coming this late in the regular season with a little bit of hype to it. Obviously the Oilers and Leafs only play twice a year. And it being the big spotlight, Zach Hyman had a chance to hit 50 goals. Just everything kind of around that game. And the fact that obviously the Leafs are without a couple key players, most notably Mitch Marner. When you add that together in the moment, I think, and sort of with how emphatic the win was, especially, the lead they built through 2 periods. And, the fact that it was some of the other guys down the list, it's not all because Matthews had a 4-goal night or something like that. I think you boil that together, and that's about as good as you could draw it up. And, I don't know that Carolina would be all that crushing. Obviously, they were looking to sweep the weekend, but to turn around to play that good a team right afterwards, I mean, it was they were within a goal. I think Joseph Woll played really well in the game. So I'm with you. I think at this point it's a little bit less focus on results and more focus on the process of how the team's playing. And I would think that they come out of what was a busy week last week and the last couple of weeks, and with those 2 efforts and basically what we've seen for the last. We're going back to the All-Star break. I think the Leafs are feeling pretty good about where they're at this stage of the season.
Yeah, they should be for sure. And the word trust. How do you think they feel about their 2 goalies, Samsonov and Woll, and how much they trust that either guy is capable of staying healthy and staying hot in the playoffs?
I think they trust that between them, it's going to work out. I think that's always been the feeling. I think that they've liked both goalies. Obviously, before Joseph Woll had his high ankle sprain, he at that point had basically supplanted Samsonov in terms of he was just not a number 1, number 2 league anymore, but he was getting more of the starts and was seeing, action in back-to-back games and things like that, or consecutive games rather. And so when you couple that with, where he seems to be at, the fact that Samsonov's played well before obviously going down with that injury late in Saturday's game. I mean, I think that where they're at is they feel they have 2 and probably even 3 goalies that they could use in a pinch if they had to, with Martin Jones also being on the staff and, having the experience level he does. And look, he won a lot of games for them too earlier in the year when they were in a pinch. So I think it's more the way a lot of teams are approaching the playoffs. I mean, we were doing this show in Carolina. I mean, it's been great to see Freddie Anderson come back from his issues this year and play so well, but they're not totally sure on how it's going to go between him and Kochetkov as they go towards the playoffs. I think the Leafs are in a similar type of spot, and they're comfortable with the guys they have, but it's really hard to say that one or the other is the guy. I think the reality is they're going in with the idea that both will probably see action and maybe even 3, depending on how things go.
CJ, how far do you think Keefe goes with the kind of scratching the player, TJ Brodie being scratched for a couple games? Excuse me. Do you think the message is sent, or will he go back to the well and leave it at that? Where do you think he goes from here?
I think it's possible that you still see him scratched again. I mean, the Leafs, what they have now is they've got a lot of options on the blue line. And, in the last week here, Lyubushkin had been out sick, but, he was able to come back. But once Mark Giordano's back, I mean, you basically have 9 NHL defensemen. And I don't think it's clear at this point in time exactly what the order is or what the pairings are. And, I just think you're going to want to keep all of those guys playing to some degree if you can down the stretch. And so, that's going to mean, Benoit comes out of the lineup as he did yesterday. Maybe it's Brodie's turn again. And I think that they're going to be trying to really narrow in on where their top 6 is, what the best grouping of those players are as they get ready for the playoffs. So it wouldn't surprise me to see it go beyond that. I think part of that was message sending, as you mentioned. Sheldon Keefe mentioned to reporters that he wanted to almost give Brodie a chance to reset, just take a breath in the season, because they put a lot on his plate in terms of minutes and usage this season. But he obviously hasn't been at his best, and I think there's no doubt when it comes to April 20th or 22nd, whenever the Leafs play their first playoff game. I mean, Sheldon Keefe is going to put what he thinks are the best 6D in the lineup that night, and this is the first time I would have said this since Brodie's come to Toronto, but I think that we have entered a world where that might not include TJ Brodie on some nights. I don't think he's going to be scratched the whole playoffs or anything like that, but certainly with the options the coach has after the trade deadline and them adding 2 more D there, I just think that it's a reality that there's going to be more mixing and matching than we've seen in the past.
CJ, do you have any insight on some of the injuries that are out, like Mitch Marner? You've got Yarncroke and obviously Samsonov left the game, and they're saying that it's not that bad. He seems to be fine. Have they been talking about it at practice? Anything that you can give as far as updates?
No, I think Yarncroke's still a little ways off with him having another hand injury so soon after returning to his previous one. the Marner one's been a little harder to kind of suss out. I mean, it feels as though, maybe the player wants to be pushing to play a little bit more, and the team maybe backing him off a little bit, with the bigger picture in mind. He hasn't been a regular participant in practice for a while, so I think, you're going to have to see him, and they also haven't had a chance to practice, playing a couple back-to-back games last week. They're off today, right into another game tomorrow with New Jersey in town, and so I'm sure those are all factors. I know that the Leafs have said Marner skated on his own a little bit when they were on the road prior, but, I think that, they're obviously going to take a patient approach with him, just how important he is to the team. And these games, I'm not going to say they don't matter at all, because, they'd like to finish on a big winning streak and, pass someone in the standings if they can, but I don't think it's as much a priority as getting the entire group back to where they are. And, Samsonov, just have to see what tomorrow brings. I mean, it's what that looked like to me, Noodles. I was there, I guess it was the previous Saturday when he went down at morning skate, ended up playing in the game that night. It looked almost the same kind of play, like where he slid across the net and it was in some distress and went straight off. It was almost the same situation as we saw at the morning skate a week prior. And he did, again, he got into that game and played through the week. So, I don't know what he's dealing with. It's clear he's not at 100%, but, I think that's one's going to have to be monitored as we go along here, because much like Marner, they're going to need him to be as healthy as he can when things really matter starting in mid-April.
Yeah, with Chris Johnston, Marner's going to be an interesting case because, I assume he steps right back in and plays with Matthews. The question is, who's the other guy on that line? Will it be Bertuzzi? Will it be Nyes? Or will they keep Domi there? How do you see, how does Marner fit into this? Because, Matthews has been chugging. I think Nylander's been outstanding. I thought he was great all weekend. He's playing such a powerful style of play. Mm-hmm. He's driving a line. He's driving through the neutral zone. He's putting the opposition on their heels. He's playing with such confidence right now where, it's an interesting spot for Mitch because, he's an integral part of their team.
Maybe that's a conversation, Hazy, you have with Matthews, because that's what big boys do. It's like you pull them aside in your office and say, who do you want to play with?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, and yet Marner's a voice too. That you probably go to him and you're like, "Where are you comfortable?" Right? Like he's going to have some sort of a voice in that too, CJ. I would think,
and deserves one,
right?
Yeah, and I still think there's a world where at times, come playoff matchups, you're spreading basically 3 scoring lines, where between Tavares, Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, you have some version of them on 3 lines and try to make it a little more difficult for matchups. And we know Sheldon Keefe well enough by now to know he'll move things around. It won't be static. And I think that, Domi's made a case to maybe be the one who stays up there, when it is Marner coming back. I would think you put him right back shotgun with Matthews to start and move the pieces around. I mean, that's the one good thing. You never want injuries, of course, but I think that the Leafs have started to find more pairings within the forward group, or more lines that have been successful. It helps to see whether it's the Bobby McMahons or Bertuzzi, Domi. I mean, some of these guys have had some big offensive nights, which I think helps their chemistry. And some of that grows out of the fact that there's places up in the lineup for them. There's maybe a bit more power play opportunity there. And that can be maybe, some of the positives when you go through a stretch and you've had players out of the lineup. And I think ultimately they're going to need that. I mean, if you boil it down, there's all kinds of reasons we can say they haven't got over the hump in the playoffs, but certainly last year's series against Florida, it was a combination, either however you want to view it. They didn't score enough, or Bobrovsky played to a level that they just couldn't solve them, but they didn't score enough goals in that series to win it. And I think that a big part of what they're going to try to do this year is just better insulate the top players, and there's going to be a lot expected of a Bertuzzi and a Domi, maybe to a lesser extent a McMahon, but those guys can score some big goals and maybe ease the load on nights, if Matthews and Marner, because obviously they get such heavy attention from the other team. So, I think that I could see the Leafs going by committee when it really matters, but certainly, whenever Marner's ready to step back in the lineup, I think he'll be with Matthews, and we'll see who gets that left wing spot.
CJ, what's your biggest takeaway from Florida? Like, you're just down there with the general managers, board of governors meeting. Like, if you had one takeaway from there, like, what would it be?
The weather was nice. The socializing was good. And in more seriousness, I mean, I'm actually interested to see. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching this. I really like the Full Swing documentary the PGA Tour did. I just binged all season 2 that just came out, and it's the exact same director that's going to do the NHL one. And he was down there, and he had a chance to address GMs. He basically, from what I was told from those in the room, basically said, this is why we're doing it. This is why it's important. This is the kind of buy-in we need from you. And it sounds like they're going to get that. Now, it's a tough time of year to start, asking for special access to these guys, because obviously we're talking about players that are going to be playing in the playoffs by and large, and the playoffs start in a couple of weeks. And so you're asking them to open the doors a little bit, at a time of year when that wouldn't normally be happening. But, just because of how great a job I think they did on the PGA Tour series, and that little tidbit that came out there, that's probably got me most interested. A lot of the rest of the stuff is, I'm not saying it isn't important, but it's more the kind of minutia of the sport. But I do think that's the one thing when it comes to the next fall. We'll be curious to see what we learn on that show, how it turns out, and maybe if we see a little, if it helps sell the NHL in a way it has in the past. I know that's certainly the message from the top of the league is we want your players in this. We want you to maybe stretch your comfort zone because this has helped the other sports tremendously, and we want to jump on that same bandwagon.
CJ, if you had to choose one coach of the year right now, who do you think it is?
Oh, maybe Nashville is hard for me to ignore, given maybe there's a little narrative in there, but with Andrew Burnett, canceling the trip to the Sphere and the team never losing again.
Yeah. What if you went a little south of there, maybe Florida?
I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with that. I mean, let's face it. A lot of times, the coach that wins the Jack Adams is a coach who coaches the team to a higher spot and finish than you're expecting, right?
Right.
Like maybe if Washington gets in, maybe Spencer Carberry gets some love. It's rarely given to the coach that's coaching the best team in the league, but I don't think you could go wrong at all if you've looked at Paul Maurice, for example, with the Panthers. Even Jared Bednar, like no one's probably talking about him, but Colorado dealt with a lot of players, big players out of the lineup this year. They've just kept chugging along. I'm glad that's one of the ones as a writer I don't vote on. That's handled by the broadcasters, and I don't have an obvious or a clear number one, at least in my mind.
Yeah. Well, you'll probably get a call before O and I would think for that. Yeah. Jack Adams. One of these days, O and I will get a nod to vote on something, right? It'll be the best mascot in the league, or that's where they'll come to us for our expertise. All right, CJ. Thank you, buddy. We'll do this again soon.
All right. Have a good week, boys.
Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. So we played the Shohei Ohtani clip, and now Jontay Porter's going to – maybe he'll have a translator next time we see him. Because the Raptors center Jontay Porter's out of the lineup tonight and is subject of an NBA investigation into irregularities on prop betting involving him. Sources tell David Purdom, Brian Windhorst, and Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. So Woj is reporting the NBA, and I would assume some sort of betting company or app or maybe partner, have picked up on irregularities on prop bets involving him. And like that in particular would suggest, I don't want to say anything out of school because I haven't seen the whole story. We're on the air. You got to be careful here. But obviously something's been flagged. Who's betting on Jontay Porter props would be beyond me. What is his prop? 0.5 points? It's the guy, he's been on 10-day contracts, basically. But the fact that it's got to a point where it's out and it's being reported on, and that's why he's not in the lineup, is pretty serious stuff. And, again, the reading of this tweet would suggest they're looking at him as, having a role in this, clearly.
It's crazy stuff, man. Like, I know betting has come into sports, and it's always been around. Mm-hmm. But for any player that's currently playing in pro sports, like, Noodles, I'm sure you remember the guys in the blue suits, they look like Secret Service guys beginning of the season come in. It's like, don't even think about it. Like, they go through the runaround, talking to people, different people around the rink and things you do and can't do. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like you said, we don't know the full details of this, but the level of stupidity, and I get it, people have things in life, whether it be booze or drugs or gambling or whatever, But to just think that you could have gotten away with that, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why, this kind of stuff is going to flare up, and it's got to be flushed out. And
immediately.
Yeah, exactly. It's imperative the league does it. You have to go over the top with punishment to make sure that everyone involved knows that there is no funny business going on.
What was the punishment in football for the guy that was...
Well, Calvin Ridley was suspended for a year and a half, I think, like the remainder of 1 year and then the full next year. And that was for him betting on, I believe, something else, like not even football related, I don't believe. Maybe if it was football, it wasn't on his own games. But, if there's some sort of funny business with an individual player's prop, this is where the regulation of gambling actually helps, leagues and the apps find that out. Because, again, I'm joking, but nobody's betting on Jontay Porter props. They're available, but it'd be so few people that would even think about that. The general public's not sniffing that out. Porter over a certain amount of rebounds or shot attempts or whatever. So, again, without knowing all the details, if all of a sudden money starts coming in on something, that's going to raise the ire of everyone involved. Like, why is this happening? What's going on here? And then if you start looking at it and it's like, that just missed or just made it, or one way or the other where it's a little bit, again, irregular, then that's going to get to a point where they're going to investigate, and they have to. And if it comes out that Jontay Porter or anyone else is involved in anything to do with shaving points or whatever the statistics might be or props.
Well, Doogie just sent a note. On the game on January 26th against the LA Clippers, there was increased betting interest on the under for Porter props, which that night were set at 5.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. There was also an over-under for Porter's made three-pointers, which was 0.5. So I don't know, like, what does that mean? You possibly tell your buddies, I'm not shooting.
I'm not playing. Like, because like Darko, has been somewhat established here publicly. Like, he generally tells the players, especially the fringe players before the game, like, be ready. And obviously anything can happen. Injuries can pile up, fouls can pile up.
Okay, so if this guy's a bench guy and does not enter the court, then if you bet the unders on all of that, you cash it.
Yeah, it hits. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And again, if that's kind of where it's trending, like wait a minute, who figured out this guy wasn't playing tonight?
Yeah.
And hammered that, then that's something that they're going to look into.
That's him giving a heads up to one of his buddies going,
well, we don't know. We don't know.
Exactly. We don't know, but it is to the point where he's not playing tonight. He's taken out, and he's under investigation here. And this is the stuff that all these leagues need to figure out. And again, Jontay Porter is a guy that is not in the public eye whatsoever, which speaks to the extremity of the Ohtani situation, where Ohtani is the LeBron James of baseball, and he's right in the middle of all this, and they got to figure all that out. And if you're going to be in bed with all this, gambling's come a long way in terms of the public eye and the way that it's perceived and the way that people act on it. But if the leagues are going to be fielding, taking money and be partners, it's imperative that the league and the books, everyone involved, make sure that it is on the up and up. You cannot have a business practice where people feel like they're being duped or something. So this kind of stuff actually could have a positive in the end. But it may be Jontay Porter, if it gets to that point, that really pays the price. We'll see. All right, Travis Green coming up, head coach of the New Jersey Devils. The Devils are in town tomorrow night. We'll get his take on that game. They play the Leafs 3 times in the next 2 weeks. So look ahead to those 3 games with Travis Green. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Raptors Nets tonight down at Scotiabank. Tomorrow night it'll be Leafs Devils. We'll get to our best bets later in the hour. Jays will be playing on Thursday, man. Baseball's back. You got the NBA playoffs rapidly approaching, the Stanley Cup playoffs. The NFL draft is in a month. The Masters is in 2 weeks, right? Masters is coming and coming quick. And once that gets going, you got LIV and PGA coming together, right? You're going to have four majors over the course of, 4 months, and you're going to see the best on best. So we'll get to that real quick. We can't wait to get some Masters week and some picks, and we got to get the Monty shirts made up. Got to get the Monty shirts.
The grin screw.
Have to. But Travis Green will be up here tomorrow night. the head coach of the New Jersey Devils, good friend of the show, former teammate of both you guys, and he used to come on all the time in between gigs and come on just shoot the you-know-what and talk hockey, and now he's back behind the bench down in Jersey. We caught up with him a little bit earlier ahead of the game tomorrow night. Began by asking, as a former Leaf, how much fun is it to come back and coach in Toronto?
Yeah, it's always, whenever you come back to Toronto, I think being a former player, it's special to me when I come back here, but I think even players today, anytime you come to Toronto, it's got a vibe to it. It's obviously the hockey mecca. It's a hot spot in the league, so guys get excited to come to Toronto.
Greeny, you end up taking over the team mid-season. What's that like? You get thrust into the role of the head coach, and then you lose two of your top D with Dougie Hamilton out. You've got a death march as far as the schedule. Like, how has this all kind of unfolded for you, and how you've been able to handle it?
Yeah, it's not the way you envision, or I envisioned getting my, being behind the bench again. When I came to Jersey with Lindy, I he's such an accomplished coach, been around a long time, and probably going to end up being in the Hall of Fame. And for me, it was more training on just learning more from another coach, and to take over a job in this position this way was not how I envisioned it. Usually when you take over a team, you get the whole summer to prepare. Guys are excited. This is obviously an opposite, something that I haven't done before, where the team's down, emotions are high, there's a new coach, the team's obviously not playing well, or there wouldn't be a new coach. So it was different for me. And, just trying to be myself and be the coach that I am was really all I concentrated on doing, and trying to get our team ready to play. And it was an emotional time, the trade deadline being a couple days away when it happened as well. So, but it's gone fairly smooth. I've liked a lot of our hockey. Obviously, there's games that you don't like. And, for me personally, I'm just trying to improve our team and teach, communicate, be honest with them about their game. And, we've played some good games, and obviously some that we haven't liked as well, and injuries have played a little bit of part in it. We got a young D-core at times, and that's always hard in the NHL.
Greeny, I've spoke about this in the past, about multiple teams with young players with skill, and it might not be the issue with you guys, but do you find like young guys coming up, they're just trained from like a young age where it's like skill, try to score, and the idea of like the team win and competition, it seems, I don't know if it's by the wayside, but there's just not a great understanding of that, because it's almost like a one-track mind of I got to get the puck and I got to do all these fancy things.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big part of, coaching today is, coaching skilled players, and not just coaching them and having the individual player have success, but how can we take that and have team success with that individual success as well. And I think that is a big part of coaching in today's world, and having young skilled teams. I think the best coaches can teach those players how to play winning hockey as well, because like you said, there's so many different things that go into winning that don't involve, your skill or your play with the puck. It's your play away from the puck. A lot of nights that determine the wins and losses. And that's a big part of coaching young players, but also allowing them still to use their skill.
With Travis Green, Devils Leafs tomorrow night. Last year, obviously, it was a great season for the Devils, and there was a lot of expectations coming into this year. And Travis,
right.
You've detailed a lot of the issues, and obviously it led to Lindy Ruff being let go, and now you're in the position you're in as the head coach. But you've been with the team the whole year. I assume, and I assume this applies to the whole organization, that you still have really positive vibes around the team in terms of what you're building there and what can hopefully continue. If not the rest of this season, certainly into next year. Can you take us behind the curtain a little bit? Like, what might lead you to have that confidence that this is just maybe a blip as opposed to a deeper issue where you can get back on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me personally, that was a big reason why I came to New Jersey, was the fact that how young the team was and where they're going. And, things have not gone the way we've envisioned this season. But I think full-heartedly that this team is going to be a top team in the league. We've got two 19 and 20-year-old defensemen running both power plays. We've got very young up-and-coming forwards that are tremendously skilled, and we've got a couple young goalies that have kind of been thrown into the mix a little bit this year with injuries and whatnot that I think are still going to be really good goalies in the league. And I firmly believe that the future is really bright for the Devils, and it's an exciting time to be a Devils fan, even though things haven't gone the way the team has wanted this year. And yet here we are still, our team is still battling away and trying to get in.
Greeny, how close are you with the Hughes family now? You had Quinn in Vancouver, and now you've got Jack and Luke in New Jersey. I mean, all three of them are immensely talented in their own way. I mean, are they all different personalities, or they all kind of have the cut from the same type of cloth?
No, it's it's a treat to be able to coach high-end players. Anytime you get to coach very skilled individuals, you enjoy it as a coach. And I've been lucky to have three of them now, and they're all great kids, great family. And for me, that's when you're a good person and you're brought up the right way. You can really tell, and all three of these young men have been, and they're all different in different ways, but they're all very, very good kids, and I've enjoyed coaching all of them. Feel lucky to have done it.
It's funny listening to Jack, kind of lean on Luke as if he's 35 years old. I always see him playing like the big brother, and I get it, which he is, but he'll kind of scoff at questions when media's trying to pump Luke's tires or whatever. Do you ever have to remind him, you're 22 years old or whatever you are? You have not played 1,200 games in the league yet.
Yeah, there's a little big brother, younger brother there once in a while for sure. We laugh about it because we hear it on the ice. Jack can, heaven forbid, if Luke misses him with a pass, because he's going to hear about it quickly. Much like a little. I have a little brother myself, and I know how that game works. So
absolutely, probably a pretty good guy to hit with a pass, though, too, right? I mean, I don't think you need to go to the tape too often to say Jack Hughes is a pretty good player with Travis Green and. Yeah, he's good, man. I mean, he's on our radar all the time, and he's had the injury issues obviously earlier in the year, but he came out of the gate flying, man. We were having, premature heart conversations, but what do you think the ceiling is for Jack Hughes in particular?
I think you just saw a glimpse of it at the beginning of the year. He's one of the best players in the world, plain and simple, and he got off to a tremendous start, an exciting start. And, his injuries did derail his season a little bit, and he's found a way to come back and play and still be effective. I don't want to say he's not having a great year, because he still is, but I think we're just kind of seeing how good Jack Hughes can be. We saw part of it last season as he had a breakout year. He had a great start, and he's still just getting better and better and stronger, and as he gets older. I think we're just kind of seeing part of how great he's going to be.
Greeny, you got two new goalies at the deadline. You mentioned your young guys being thrust in a tough situation where maybe they were having to punch up a little bit because they for their development to be down. Is that what the thought process was from Tommy Fitz and the organization? Is bring some veteran guys in to kind of allow them to grow?
Exactly. I think personally, I really high on both our young goalies. I think they're both going to be good goalies in the NHL, hopefully great goalies in the NHL. But it's a hard league to be a young goalie, much like young defensemen. And V got hurt for a while during the season, and so we had two young guys. And I think at the deadline, just getting a couple guys to stabilize our crease a little bit was a great move by Fitz. Both guys have come in and given us some good minutes and some really good games, and just kind of a stable feeling amongst the team, which I think has helped, especially with Marino, Siegenthaler, and Hamilton being out at times in the last couple of weeks. we've had a very young D Corp dressed, and having goalies behind them that can help on a mistake here and there helps the whole team.
It's going to be a fun one tomorrow night. Leafs Devils again. It's Leafs Devils 3 times in the next 2 weeks, so we're going to see a lot of Travis Green and hear a lot from you, Greeny. But we always appreciate you doing this. We won't bother you again in like a week and a half to come back on. This will be it. But hopefully in the offseason.
Because we win tomorrow, I'll be calling you.
There you go. You can come on whenever you want. You get a win.
Get to the pregame meal the pregame meal first, like Ricky Lee.
Yeah.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, guys. Yeah, always fun.
There he is, Travis Green, getting to that pregame meal, like you said. Ricky Lee, did he just dominate those statistics or what?
Always first off. Love to be. That was just his thing. He liked to be first in the buffet line.
Nothing wrong with that.
And he wasn't like a big dude or anything. He wanted to get his grub and eat.
Veteran status.
It was a veteran move.
Yep.
Veteran move.
Nothing wrong with that. So Leafs Devils tomorrow night. All right, Raptors Nets tonight. We'll come back with our best bets on that game. And again, look ahead to Leafs Devils tomorrow. A couple games in the NHL tonight. Baseball's back on Thursday. It's going to be a fun week. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, something to chew on brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers. Always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. Asking people online. Well, we have a couple of polls, actually, that I want to revisit here. The win total. FanDuel's got the Blue Jays win total set at 86.5. Over, under. And it's tight. It's like 52-48. 52% of vote going over the win total. 48 under. I am not feeling great about this Jays team, the way they're breaking camp. That number, again, 86.5 would suggest they probably missed the playoffs. Maybe that's a third wild card.
I'm optimistic just because I don't think they can be any worse than they were offensively than last year.
I agree with that, but the staff, I worry,
pitching. That's the
comes
concern.
Way back down to earth. Now, Gosman pitched today, spring training, and looked great. Barrios is ready to go. Kikuchi, Bassett, those guys. It's not that they don't have the makings of a very good staff again, but are they all going to get to 30-plus starts? I think that's unlikely. And you're starting the year with Romano and Swanson likely on the IL. Tough road trip to begin the year. I'd lean under. I'd lean 84, 85 wins right now, which is close enough to springboard up to 89, 90, 91 where you get in. But I definitely think they're an above 500 team. I just worry that really tough division. Baltimore's really good. The Yankees are better. Tampa's always good. It's a tough one. Now, you and I, we revealed our 5-pack for the Jack Adams this year, right? Noodles. We went to Noodles, who was an objective bystander, and he voted my list as the list that he thought was superior. I think those were his words.
You know what? I went wrong. I went wrong one area, okay, and I'm embarrassed and I want to apologize. I should have had Roddy Brind'Amour a lot higher. For that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But for that, I do not think that it should take me down
completely out of the running. Yeah, I mean, there's a
Didn't
lot of
take you
great
out of
coaches.
the running. You asked me a yes or no. You said don't be on the fence because I even said I really like your list, but there was a couple on Hayes' list that I had too.
Noodles,
So I had you made
get
me
it.
choose.
I get it.
That's all it is.
Your job, you had one job, and it was to say, I like this list, and you picked Hayes.
Right.
I got a chance tomorrow at Redemption.
Yes.
And that's all I can do. It's like the NHL. You just you live to fight another day, and it's back-to-back games, and I'll be back tomorrow.
And I can't wait. I don't know which category we're doing tomorrow. Doogie, maybe let us know. Should we? I think we should tease it, right? Let people know what we're going to get into tomorrow. We put it up as a poll question. 70% of the vote coming in on my Jack Adams awards list. So that's the public as well, kind of supporting the popular vote and the Electoral College.
I wish I never had
together.
brought this to anyone's attention because, if I win tomorrow, I'm just going to keep bringing you bring this up after every commercial. I'm just going to have a field day tomorrow.
Okay, we're doing the
really
Norris
enjoying
tomorrow.
yourself.
The Norris. All right, so be
All
ready.
right.
That's my category, man. I
really?
dominate the Norris. Dominate. I cannot wait for that tomorrow. All right, so we got that. We got the Leafs in action tomorrow. Tonight's Raptors. The Raptors are in action, and our best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm going to take the points. Like two teams that are really struggling. The Nets are really struggling right now. The Raptors obviously have lost 10 in a row. They lost to Washington the other night. Washington's won 13 games, I think, all year. But you're getting 6.5. Two bad teams. The home team as a dog. I'll take the points. And this feels like Grady Dick's had some. He's had some tough run-ins recently. You know, he's looking like a rookie. He's had ups and downs. Really, since the trade deadline, he's had ups and downs. But I think this is a game where you're going to see him show up. I'm going over the number 13.5 points for him. 3+ threes made for Grady Dick. There's your same game parlay tonight. Take the points. Raptors 6.5. Grady Dick over 13.5 points. Grady Dick 3+ threes made tonight. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The sweat begins at tip-off by betting your favorite NBA star to score the first basket or go for 30+ in a same game parlay. Please play responsibly. 19+. Physically located in Ontario. All right. So we're doing the Norris tomorrow. We got a Leaf game tomorrow night, coming off a Raptor game. Probably more news on the Jays and how things kind of shape up for them as they get towards opening day on Thursday. See if Shohei Ohtani has any more statements, 28-second statements where he did nothing wrong and his former best friend and interpreter did everything wrong. Lied to him.
And CJ mentioned it, and we talked to Chris Johnston, like to get a hold and transfer that dollar amount from someone else's account.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Tricky business.
There's some red flags.
Very
there,
difficult.
Big time. Yeah.
But that's the story. They're going to stick with it until they come up with a new one, right? Because the story's been changing a lot over the last week. But, it's been a fun one today. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Noodles, I guess we'll chat in the morning and be fraudulent like you were today with the fraud on the left. 4 p.m. Goodbye.
We'll chat then.